Hey, it is Zennial Gamer, and today we're going to be talking about Ice Rift. Now, no we're not. We're going to be talking about Fire Rift, aren't we? So like the Ice Rift video, I'm going to be dividing this video up into a couple of parts. The first part, we're going to be talking about how you would pass the Fire Rift for the first time, get your first SSS if you're early game. Then we're going to be looking at a team that has the potential to get a high score. And then last, I'm actually going to show you the team that we've got up right now, which is just kind of my easy auto team. Doesn't put up big scores, but never fails. Okay, this team that you're looking at right now, don't freak out. You don't have to have nat 5s. You don't have to have twins. But these types of monsters are what you're going to be looking for, and they're what I have Rune. So I'm going to talk you through the way that the Rift works, and then we're going to talk about alternatives for these monsters. Okay, now first and most important, just like the Ice Rift, just like all the Rifts, the speed of your monsters does not matter. The boss has basically no speed. This is a pre-programmed fight that's based on the number of turns you take. So the speed of your monsters doesn't matter. What does is how tanky they are, their ability to survive a hit, and how much damage they can do. So put on your most stat-laden runes, the ones with lots of HP, attack, crit rate, crit damage, and don't worry about speed at all, and you're going to score better. Now, the way the Fire Rift works is the boss is going to go through a series of attacks, and for the most part, you don't have to worry about too many of them. There's only a couple of things that you have to know. One is that it's going to summon these fire minions, and it's going to do it a couple of times. It's actually going to do it 3 times throughout the cycle of attacks. So when it summons the fire minions, you do need to kill them. Now, they all have basically no HP. They'll die to anything, but if you do not kill them, they're going to come and attack you, and they're where the boss does the majority of his damage. So as long as you're able to do an AoE attack, then this is actually the easiest of all the rifts. Now, there's some good news. I forgot to load her in, but the game actually starts you out with an AoE monster, which is Lapis. And we're back, but this time we've got Lapis. Now, I put Lapis in a Vampire Revenge set, which is what I think most people are probably going to have her in earlier game, unless by the way, she's a very underrated monster for PvP, so you may have upgraded her runes, but if you haven't, she's probably in Vamp Revenge. So that's what I put her in for this video. I'll show the stats afterwards, but keep in mind you don't have to match the stats of my monsters. These are just the stats that I have, especially if we're just talking about getting SSS for the first time. So, I brought in Annabelle because she's going to provide my healing. She's also got an AoE attack. Now, there are some alternatives to Annabelle. If you're lucky enough to have a Bastet, Bastet's going to work great for this Rift. She has an AoE attack, and even though it doesn't do much damage, it's enough to kill the minions, and she's also going to shield an attack buff. If you don't have Bastet, you're probably going to want to bring in a healer, possibly 2, depending on the quality of your runes, and then with those healers, you're going to want to make sure that they're tanky and they're in the front line. So a monster like Colleen, you can use either water or fire. So a monster like Colleen or Wahi, those are both really good. But basically, whatever healers that you have, put them in the front line, make them tanky. You might want to put them on Violent if your rune quality is really low. After that, make sure that you've got an AoE water attack monster. So Lapis is the easiest of them, but you can use monsters like Varad and Annabelle if you have those nat 5s. Poseidon is another one. The thing is, you want to make sure that you're doing as many AoE attacks as you can, which is what actually makes Lapis the best. Now, if you don't want to use Lapis, or if you want to have more than one AoE attack, all the Magic Knights actually do the same thing Lapis does. So Lapis does have one major drawback. And because of this drawback, you're going to want to have a second AoE attacker. So the drawback of Lapis is that her skill 2 is actually not an AoE attack. Now, the best monsters for all rifts, with the exception slightly of Water Rift or Ice Rift, are the twins. So if you have twins, it really doesn't matter, as obviously wind twins you can't use, but if you have any combination of water, fire, light, dark twins, they're going to be the best monsters for this rift, but in particular, of course, Shayna and Diva, because they've got the AoE on their Chakram Crush, and they'll take care of those minions for you. Now, the Sabrina is going to give you the benefit of boosting the damage of the other twins, and she's also got Attribute Advantage, which makes her a lower rune quality requirement and higher damage. Now, the other thing you might notice is that my Lapis and my Shayna both have attack down, so whenever you attack those fire minions, you are going to get an attack down. Now, honestly, when we get into the later stages of scoring higher, you're not going to be as worried about it, but for the earlier stages, if you're having trouble getting damage out, use Annabelle. You can also use other cleansers. So it's all going to depend on what you have in your monster box. But the basic setup here is you're going to need to have one defense breaker. You're going to need to have at least a couple of nukers or a couple of twins. You're going to need to have at least 2 AoE water damage dealers, but they don't have to be huge damage dealers. It doesn't take much damage to kill the minions. And then you're going to need to have 2 healers, and you're going to want your healers in front line, preferably water, but fire is okay as well, and light and dark are okay as well, just obviously not wind. So here are the Lapis runes. It was Vampire Blade, not Vampire Revenge. As you can see, she's got a lot of speed, which again, she doesn't need for this rift, and she actually does not have a lot of attack. If I didn't build her with all that speed, I could have built her to hit much harder, which would have been preferable. Here is the Annabelle, obviously built for PvP, so again, not a huge damage dealer here. Here is the Khan. If you're curious, this was, like I said, just a damage test. His runes still need a little bit of grinding. I was just curious what he would do. Not much, so not a monster I'd recommend as a nuker here. And then here are the twins. Shayna is in triple fight. The Sabrina is in violent fight. And the Talia was unruined. Here's the Talia. The Talia is in Rage Blade, but for that particular run, she was unruined. Okay, let's move on. I wonder how long I've been using an unruined Talia in here. I think it's been a while. Hey guys, post-video edit here. I completely forgot to show you one of the most important cheat codes for Fire Rift. So on screen, we've got a team that has 3 AoE hitters. We've got 2 defense breakers, we've got a brander, and we've got Belager. Now, obviously, Bastet and Varad are premium Nat 5s. I discussed this earlier. Bastet's replaceable with Megan, and Varad is just serving the role of AoE attacker here because he has 2 AoE attacks. So any monster you have that's fire, wind, light, or dark with double AoE attacks will work right here. If you don't have any monster like that, then you could just use 2 monsters that have single AoE attacks. The Fire Magic Knight, for example. But the point is, basically, what you want is your Lapis is going to do most of the AoE attacks by herself, and then you just want, when she goes with her skill 2, for another monster to be there to do the AoE. Now, the basic concept behind this team is every time the minions die, they're going to stack your Belager, and then he's just going to bomb the boss, so he's going to bring you through really quick. We're going to be using our Vigor for defense break. Bastet is there for backup defense break. And then the Vigor is also going to help to stack that Bale during the groggy state. Bastet's going to help to stack the Bale during groggy state. And then we talked about the AoE attackers to deal with the fire minions. Speed tuning in this team is important. You need to make sure that your Bale acts last. But the speed itself does not actually matter. All that matters is the speed tuning. Now you can see right here, the Bale's going to drop the boss right off the bat from killing those minions. The brand came from Stella. Stella's actually your 3rd defense breaker, and she gives brand, and then she gives you a bunch of debuffs, but honestly those don't matter because we're not using like a crow or anything here. Now this team, depending on your rune quality, may not be a triple S team, it may be S or double S, but you also don't have to go quite as overboard as I've gone here with the protection. All you really have to do is make sure that those minions die. So for example, you could probably replace the Vigor for a Rauk or a Crow and give yourself some extra damage. So right here, our Bale is stacked again, and then the Bale is going to do probably more than half the boss's damage. Oh, I think my Bale missed a crit there. That is one thing. I'm used to my Bale having attribute advantage, so you might also want to use a crit lead here instead of... I think I actually used the HP lead of Varad by mistake. This team was originally set up so that we could use a... we'd be able to use an attack lead. But so there you go. I'm actually going to still wind up getting the triple S on this, but I do have a fairly high rune quality on my Bale. So there you go. I'm actually going to wind up getting triple S here, but my Bale is pretty high rune quality. Now my Lapis, I actually runed her just for this video. Rune quality is low. She's very fast, but doesn't do much damage. Varad also was runed just for this video, runes off of inventory, and he's unskilled. So same thing, he's not doing much damage. If you were to replace, so let's say we were to use either a crit rate lead or at least the attack lead, replace the Vigor with something that's going to do a little bit more damage, or if you happen to have like Poseidon or better yet Brandia, and you replace the Varad for one of those, then your rune quality requirements go even lower. So there is our post-video edit. back to the original recording. Okay, so this is the team I use for autoing. I'll go ahead and show you the runes here. The Water Homunculus obviously is triple AoE attacks, which makes it perfect for auto because he's always going to clear the fire minions. Now, he's not going to do a lot of damage, so that makes it not perfect for top scoring. It's actually really close to my top scoring team. There's just one change to it. Here are the Crow runes. He's going to be Enrage Destroy. Now, the Brandia also has an AoE attack. With the Water Homunculus, it's really not necessary. In a top-scoring team, it actually is necessary. As long as you have your AoE attacks, then you could change out Brandia with any monster that scales damage based on the number of negative effects on the enemy. There are also some Nat 3s, if you don't have those, that will scale. So I built one of them to do a damage test. His damage wasn't impressive, but he did the job. He hit for... it's this guy, Gangchung. I think he hit for about 300k in a rage set, which, again, not huge, but certainly it's on a low cooldown. It's a 2-turn cooldown. It's enough to get triple S. There are several others that are going to scale to enemy negative effects. And then if you don't have monsters that scale to negative enemy effects, just your biggest water nukers is fine. Remember, water nukers are going to get a 50% damage bonus, and they've got a chance to be glancing hit, so obviously you want to bring as much water as you can, unless your rune quality is really high. Now, Crow is free to play. Everybody should be able to get him. And Crow is basically the second hardest hitter in the game. Brandy is the hardest hitter for purposes of the rifts, I should say. Because these two monsters scale on negative effects, Crow is the second hardest, Brandy is the hardest. But any monster that will scale to negative effects will work. And then you use just your water twins. Talia is going to give... Talia is going to hit very hard, and Sabrina is going to give Talia 20% damage boost. Okay, so there you go. You see how that team goes. Now, the only change we're going to make for a top scoring team is to add in Mav. However, adding in Mav is a little bit tricky. The order of this team should actually be Ergar going first, and he's at 160, so let's see if we're still speed tuned. Sabrina should go second, and she's at 156. Then Crow should go third, he's at 155, so maybe I am still speed tuned. Talia should go fourth, she's at 151. Brandia should go fifth, she's at 147, and Mav should go last, and he's at 136. Okay, so we are still speed tuned, that's good. And I just flashed all the runes as I went through. I know I flashed them a little bit quick, but you guys can pause if you want to see the runes. In the meantime, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to match my runes. This just gives you a guideline of what it takes to get to, I'm just under 10 million. Now, we are going to have to manual. So this is the one trick with this team is Mav has attribute disadvantage, and so he probably will die. Now, I'm moving Ergar into the front line, but he is also pretty squishy. And the catch with this stage is I could auto it, but I would fail probably 2 times out of 10 because I have to use the Brandia skill 2 in order to kill the fire minions. That's my only AoE damage, and those fire minions will wipe out both the Ergar and the Mav. So we're going to go ahead and do one run on auto. We're going to see what kind of a score we can get. So there we go. We'll auto out. Looks like this run will be about 9.4, 9.5 million. I think my top was 9.8. Yeah, there we go, 9.8. And in case you're wondering, the 9.8 score is rank 150. Okay, guys, so that is going to be it for today's video. Just remember the big takeaways here. If you're doing your very first time and your rune quality is lower, make sure you have at least 2 AoE water nukers or a water homunculus. Water homunculus is the only monster that will consistently kill the fire minions with every one of his attacks. Remember that speed does not matter. What matters is stats, so make your monsters slow but really thick and let them do a lot of damage. And then if you're looking to do a high score, find monsters that scale to the number of negative effects on the enemy and then use Mav to cool them down. Mav has the shortest cooldown of all the monsters that cool other monsters down. So if you were to use, for example, Jamire, he would cool everybody down, but he would only get to do it once, where Mav can do it 2 or sometimes even 3 times, depending on the procs. Okay, guys, so as always, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it helpful. and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you're still with me to this point, then that means that you probably liked the video, found it entertaining, or even better, both. So please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below, because those things help the channel grow, and more importantly, they show me that the video is useful, and that's the whole reason I do this in the first place.